love to introduce you first and foremost. So Leigh Caldwell is a mathematician and an economist working on cognitive and behavioral theories and applying them to the world of economic decisions, pricing, and marketing. So Leigh is a co-founder and partner at the Irrational Agency, a group of narrative discovery experts committed to exploring consumer worldviews and perspectives. So Irrational Agency uses behavioral science, things like system theory technologies or methodologies rather, which I cannot wait to dive into, and many other innovative market research techniques to uncover non-conscious stories that drive consumer behavior. So Leigh has also founded and built several companies since the mid-90s in everything from technology to economic consulting. He has also written extensively on economics and psychology on his blog, knowingandmaking.com. And if you're a reader like I am, check out his book titled The Psychology of Price, which we will link down below. And of course, myself, I am Sharday Torgerson, the creative and digital strategist at Insightrix in Saskatoon, Canada, and your host for the Stories and Market Research. So as I said, Leigh, I'm very humbled to have you as a guest on the podcast. You have a really unique background as an economist and a mathematician, but I am curious what drew you to perhaps behavioral science?
So as you said, I started out as a mathematician. So I was, as a kid, I grew up loving numbers, loving, algebra. Like I'm sure many listeners will not identify with that as from their
Totally.
memories of childhood, but that was just what I loved since, I was kind of one of these math kids who just loved all that stuff. And I went to university early when I was 14, and I kind of studied mathematics just to try and understand the world. And then I graduated from university. I decided, right, this is the internet. I've heard of this. This is the new big thing. It was about 94, 95. And I thought, right, technology is going to rule the world. I'm a mathematician. I know about this. I know how to, create these tools and build the stuff that needs to be built to, for this new world. And I started building it. And I kind of realized quite quickly that just understanding technology and numbers and mathematics was not going to be enough to be successful in a business and indeed in the world in general. So I started trying to figure out, well, I got to understand people. I got to know that people are buying my services, people are using my software. What drives them? What is it that I need to understand about what makes them tick, so that I can give them value. And you may have seen an episode of The Big Bang Theory where Sheldon Cooper realizes that he wants to understand this thing called friendship, and he starts sketching out on a whiteboard this theory about how relationships are formed and how people talk to each other and what value they provide to each other. And I wasn't maybe quite that bad, but that was me, like trying to understand, okay, there's all this psychology going on, and the tools I have are mathematical. I understand economic theory because that's driven often by mathematics. But applying that to try to understand human psychology, kind of economic theory doesn't really tell you about psychology. So I was building these models. I was working out the equations of how people, how they're motivated and what their goals are and how they seek their goals. And then I discovered this field of behavioral economics, which was already tackling these questions, and where psychologists and scientists had been studying how people don't quite behave according to the rules of logic, or at least the rules that the rules that economists say they should logically follow. I found this whole world of people already doing this research, and that was really the big moment for me to find this community of people, this research literature, and then immerse myself into start going to the conferences and start figuring out, okay, there are actually ways that we can use mathematics and science to model human behavior, but real human behavior, not the theoretical version of
Yeah.
behavior that economics studies.
And maybe what marketers kind of push with personas to some degree, just say. But
Yeah.
even yeah, I hear this a lot actually, where folks will come from all different avenues and land in areas of behavioral science, working or wanting to know more about humans in terms of their nature. I think is quite interesting. I myself, being in market research, working on the marketing side of things, I think that's why I ended up naturally kind of landing in the position I did. I just really enjoyed learning more about human behavior, and then ended up kind of working in a market research field as a result. So that's really cool. I wouldn't mind knowing a little bit more, Leigh. Like, how did that, lead you into founding the
Mm.
Irrational Agency?
Yeah, so I had I started to apply some of this learning in the world of pricing strategy and economic consulting, and so that was around the time that I wrote the book that you mentioned, The Psychology of Price, because
Right.
pricing was one of these things I'd always really wondered about as a business owner, and there was no good, there was no one there to tell you here's actually the real secrets of pricing, because it's not just supply and demand. There's a lot more to it. So I was in that area. I was selling kind of consulting services, but then I started to meet a few people in the market research world, and I realized, well, there is this, just as you said, there's this whole group of people in business hungry to understand human behavior better, and
Mm-hmm.
looking for better techniques to do it. Because at that time, 2012, there wasn't really a behavioral science movement within market research. It was still pretty traditional. So you would ask people questions, you might send a survey, you might interview them, do a focus group, but pretty much it was a bit surface level. So it was kind of here's what we want to know. We're going to write a questionnaire, ask people, and the answers will come back, and we'll take that data kind of as the signal of truth. So I realized there was something that the behavioral science world could bring to the market research world. And I met my co-founder, who had kind of came more from the market research world, but had the same idea, knew about behavioral science from the other side, and we created this agency together. So the name Irrational Agency is kind of making fun slightly of ourselves and slightly of the behavioral world. So you get books like Dan Ariely's book Predictably Irrational, which was one of the popular behavioral science books at that time. Um, and it's all around the idea that, well, people are irrational. Now, they are if you're an economist. If you're an economist, you say this is how people should behave, and they don't. So that's irrational. Well, of course, people do have reasons for their behavior. People actually behave that way because there are some, in a way, they have their own logic. There are human drives, there are psychological laws and universals and psychological patterns that influence how people behave. So it's not that we really think people are irrational, but that's kind of the default positioning. And so we start by saying, well, you know what? Let's understand the rationality behind that irrationality.
So if I may maybe build on this a little bit, I love that, and I think there's such inherent value in learning about behavioral science and how it really does align with a lot of research methodologies that are currently being used. In the past even few podcasts, we've been working with folks who are anthropologists in
Mm.
their career set, and they're completely involved in market research, but they come at it from a complete ethnography approach. So I love hearing about these types of areas that can be brought into research, these types of sciences that can be brought into research. So I came across actually an umbrella term, and please correct me if I'm wrong. But really, when we're talking about behavioral science, we're looking at the critical investigation of human action with things like psychology, cognitive science, sociology, anthropology, as mentioned, neuromarketing, another big one that
Mm.
we're hearing in market research, and then, of course, economics. So, this is a really compelling breadth of research. So, what is it about maybe behavioral science consulting that can help, businesses that are looking at these types of
Mm.
methodologies and really are looking to maybe uncover the advantages for their brand?
Yeah. Well, as you say, there are a lot of different approaches within behavioral science, and this is because people have struggled with this question for so long of understanding human behavior, and they've used many different techniques and angles to approach that. So, the sociologist will look at how the structures in society influence our behavior, and we're of course influenced by what's around us. Neuroscientists look at how the chemistry and the geometry of the brain influences us, and measuring behavior through brain signals. And as you say, economists, which is kind of where I come from, look at things like the signals that are sent by markets and by prices, and how the information that we get from that ultimately influences our behavior. So behavioral science, I guess the breadth of it is very powerful in helping
Mm.
companies to understand their consumers from all of those different angles, because one method of study is never going to give you the whole picture. Fundamentally, um, behavioral science tells you that there are ways to get evidence about human behavior, and those ways are not necessarily obvious. They're not necessarily, basically, people don't follow the simple dictates of any particular behavioral rule. And so the science is about finding the evidence for how they do behave and how you can measure that. And then from a brand's point of view, how you can influence behavior, because understanding is one thing, but the point, as Karl Marx didn't quite say, is to change it. Is the If you're a brand and you understand why people do this, or you understand whether they'll buy your product, well, that's only the first step. The next step is, how can I make them? How can I influence them to buy more, or to carry out the behavior that's in my interest as a marketer, but of course, hopefully, also in the consumer's interest. And so, finding those levers that you can pull is really essential to a behavioral science approach.
I love that. And you're literally speaking my language even as a marketer. There's so many of those techniques that we often employ ourselves when we're looking at market research, and especially understanding the consumer. And marketing research itself, I think, borrows or rather employs a ton of behavioral science techniques. And I would argue, even in the past 2 years, this is becoming a lot more prevalent in consideration to how consumer behavior is even shifted in a digital transformation
Mm.
aspect. We've always been online, but I think there is a really unique. We're at a unique time in our society, as everyone has been kind of mentioning. But I do think behavioral science is really becoming a much stronger point of interest between clients, as well as how market researchers are approaching consulting as well. So on that note, what are maybe the types of behavioral science methodologies
Mm.
that you or even Irrational Agency specializes in?
Yeah. Well, just to pick a few examples, one thing that has come up a lot over the last 10 years is the idea of nudging. So there's a book called Nudge that was published in 2008. And although that many of the case studies, they were around government actions, so things like how could you get people to, I don't know, donate more blood, or to save more money for their retirement. Nudging is also a powerful set of techniques that companies can use. And a nudge is a way of changing people's behavior without having to spend a lot of money to change their incentives. The classic way of changing behavior, let's say you want to sell more soda, is cut the price. But imagine you want to get people to buy more without having to slash your margins. Well, you can use nudges, which are subtle psychological cues that you can change the way that a choice is framed, show the price in a different way, for example, and you'll be able to influence their behavior. So nudging has been one big theme, and using research techniques to design and measure what nudges are most effective has been quite a powerful strand. Another is to look at ways to get under the surface of people and people's responses using different ways of measuring their answers and their reactions. So, implicit tools is the best known example of that. You will see research agencies using implicit tools measuring reaction times, for perhaps showing stimuli that are indirectly influence people's answers in order to measure things like their emotional reactions and the associations that they have. So that whole world of implicit tools has also been pretty important. But what's now emerging, and what we found really exciting, and what's been giving some really great answers to our clients recently, is something called narrative research. So narrative research, as you can imagine from the name, is about stories. And what we have realized, again, looking at the neuroscience research that's been coming out recently, looking at the cognitive science world, we've been able to see that people are really driven by stories. Um, they they have the brain, the way we interpret the world in our brain is driven by the narratives that we have about that world. And those narratives could tell us things like, I'm going to enjoy this product because I remember a story of when I bought it before and I enjoyed it. It could be something like, I'm going to recycle my packaging because I have a story about caring for the world and about the meaning of my actions within that story. Emerge both influenced by the scientific discoveries, but also what we're seeing in the commercial world. And ultimately, if you can understand the stories that are inside the heads of your consumers, and how those stories translate into their behavior, then you're going to be in a very powerful position to create a brand that will appeal to them. And so research methods that can uncover those stories, understand the structure of them, understand their impact on behavior, are becoming really, really powerful. And that's kind of the area where we're most active right now, is that narrative research world.
That's really cool. It's so neat, I'm sure, to be able to work with clients who want to work on innovative
Mm.
cognitive behavioral studies, and really great examples of such. So what are maybe the types of narrative research tools do you
Mm.
find work best with clients when it comes to maybe the more qualitative side of methodologies and
Mm.
techniques, where I'm sure narrative research, heavily relies upon?
Well, so there is a qualitative side and a quantitative side, both,
Cool.
which obviously appeal to. They work for different research questions. They appeal to different clients. Within the qualitative world, it's about how you conduct interviews. So rather than having a typical list of questions, a kind of discussion guide, you're really relying on the participant to open up and tell you their stories.
Mhm.
And you might start by sharing your own story, because that's really it's a great way to build trust and to create that rapport, and to set the expectation. I might tell a story to an interviewee of, when I went grocery shopping, and what happens, and maybe I have some kind of funny story to get people engaged, and then I ask them to tell me their own stories. And so we'll start with something quite open, and then we might drill a bit further in, and you probably get a story that is a bit surface level. So it's, yeah, I went to the grocery store and I parked my car, and I went in and I bought some Diet Pepsi, and then I went to the till and I paid and I came home. So then you get them to open up more. You get them to tell more about what they were feeling, about what's that behind that. Maybe what memories came to mind when you looked at the soda shelf. And you can drill into multiple layers of storytelling, and then you can analyze the results, looking at the kind of story arc. So there's a lot of work that people who have done, for example, a storytelling workshop, you may have come across things like the arc, the 3-act structure, or the hero's journey, these kind of different ways of telling a story. Well, those same things apply when you're hearing a story. You can look for those arcs within the stories that consumers are telling you.
Hmm.
And every story is made up of cause and effect steps. So there's always a step and another step and another step, but everything happens because of the thing that happened before. So when someone tells you a story, they're revealing their picture of causality. They're revealing their beliefs about cause and effect in the world. And that's extremely important when you want to influence someone's behavior, because you can see, well, if they have this view of what causes the world to work, then you know how to tap in to their behavior and their mindset. So
That's
that's
really,
the
really cool. Yeah.
yeah, that's the qualitative side. Um, Now, qual research is great and is really important for, especially in that exploratory stage. But you need in many cases to validate or
Hmm.
to be able to robustly test your hypothesis with a wider group of people. And so what we've developed recently are quantitative ways of gathering and analyzing stories. So we might speak to, say, 2,000 people. Like right now, we're doing a study on health and well-being. We're speaking to 2,600 consumers. We're getting 4 stories from each of them. So we'll have about 10,000 in total. And we're going to distill those stories down into the core elements: the
Hmm.
beginning, the end, the turning points, who's the hero or heroine of this story, who's the antagonist, what are the triggering events that drive the story forward. We can do that partly through automated grammar analysis, and partly through having the respondents give us a guided word association response. So they will tell us a story, and then they will, in a way, boil that down for us into a structure and tell us, well, here are the 5 words that summarize the 5 steps of my story. And so that gives us this a map of what does this category or this product or this brand look like to those consumers. How do those stories knit together into a coherent worldview? And that's what we call the System 3 map. So this is a tool called System 3. Behavioral science fans will remember, of course, System 1 and System 2, the
Hmm. Hmm.
division kind of popularized by Daniel Kahneman in the book Thinking Fast and Slow. System 1 is the automatic unconscious reaction that we have to things. System 2 is the considered logical reasoning that the mathematician's brain. But System 3 is the imaginative brain. And that's what's not really covered by either System 1 or 2. It's where our mind goes when we think, well, what might happen what would it be like if I bought this product, if I drove this car, if I drank this soda? What would it be like if I went on a date with this person? What would my experience be? What would my emotions be? You create a story in your mind, imagining the outcome of your choices. And that's System 3. That's the imaginative part of the brain is powerful and is very important for certain consumer decisions. And so that's what this tool is designed to understand and uncover.
I think lots of folks, especially in the retail world, are going towards a lifestyle brand where they really want you as the buyer to focus on picturing what your life could be with their product or service. And I do find even as a marketer, when we're approaching trying to market these types of strategies, how often again that we're kind of alluding to a lot of the things that you're saying. So that the System 3 technology would be really interesting from the perspective of if you're a sports fan and you're asking them to purchase a jersey, what would you be doing differently rather than asking them to purchase the jersey? You're really feeding them perhaps everything that comes with it in terms of when you buy that jersey, you're part of the community, blah blah blah, right?
Yeah,
So there's so many really cool things that can be uncovered from the lifestyle perspective on the marketing side of things when you're applying these types of research
yeah.
methodologies. So
Yeah, I mean, every brand has its own different categories of story. Sports is
totally.
a wonderful example because every sports event is a story in itself. It has a beginning, it has an end, it has turning points, it has
Yep.
excitement, it has tension, it has an unknown outcome. And the reason that sports is so appealing to people is because it taps into those same storytelling elements in our brain, things that have evolved really over the last several 100,000 years, because humans have developed into a narrative species, into a storytelling species. We relied on stories to survive in the
Yeah.
early days of humanity. We still do. I if my cousin could tell me the story of his cousin who was eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, then I might not have to go and learn by trial and error about a saber-toothed tiger, and it could save many people's lives. So the brain, well, those of us who survived the saber-toothed tigers are the ones who were the people receptive to stories, and that's absolutely survived into today's humans.
I love that. It's a stark example, but it's true. It's no different than touching the stove. Your sibling won't ever touch it, right? So
Exactly.
carry on the tradition. But I find storytelling in market research an invaluable part of the process. Ourselves at Insightrix, we really put a high value on ensuring that insights are reported in a way that clients understand, but also take the story behind it. For many years we've worked with experts like Ellen Eastwood. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her work, but she's a phenomenal storyteller in market research, and again a great consultant on this type of work as well. And I find working with individuals who really understand the narrative side of research, are making major impacts in our industry, but also within others. So I know recently Irrational Agency won the MRS award for new consumer insights. So first, congratulations!
Thank
It's
you.
a phenomenal award. And it's being recognized with combined efforts with a partner of yours, Gamesies. So would you mind maybe sharing a little bit about the project, perhaps what you learned, and the impact that it's having currently?
Yeah. So that project, GameSys, is an online gaming company, and they came to us with a dilemma. And the dilemma was that they are, well, like there are several industries where companies have a tension between wanting people to use their products but not wanting them to use them excessively or irresponsibly. So alcohol would be another example. In the gambling world, people want their customers to have fun and to game, but they don't want them to become addicted or to become to get to the point of doing the damage to themselves. And so the messaging in that industry was kind of like small print at the bottom of a contract. It was warnings, but it was don't don't go too far, or make sure that you're only using money you can afford. And then it was a little bit it was a bit like talking down to someone, a bit patronizing, and a bit basically it didn't land, it didn't resonate. And so they wanted to understand, how can we make these messages work better? So we interviewed a number of people who were gamers across many different kind of levels of engagements, but also people who were very recreational gamers, had a lot of fun, and some people who had real problems and who had lost tens of thousands or more of dollars or pounds. This was in primarily in the UK, but some people who would break down crying, talking about how they lost the home that they lived in. And we had to kind of listen to those stories, understand what was going on, be, of course, responsible in the research process as well, so that we're not being exploitative of people's emotions, but we're understanding and we're supporting them. And we discovered that there are better ways to communicate these messages and better times to do it. So the results of the research found that there was a tone of voice that we needed to bring, and it had to be consistent with the tone of voice of the games themselves, because each game has its own style. You will if you've used one of those services, you'll see that games have, it's a bit like the casual gaming on your phone. You could have very different styles of game. That one of them might be a Candy Crush, which is very colorful and not much text. Another one might be a role playing game where it's a bit more combat and so on. So you need to tune your messaging to the same tone of voice and to be consistent, so that kind of when people are immersed in these games, that it's consistent and it stands out for them. You also have to get it at the right time. So there are certain psychological triggers about that operate within gambling. There's things like you've just lost a bit of money and you want to try and win and get it back, or you've just won some money and you're kind of on a high and you feel like, oh, I can gamble the same money because it's free, because I've won it. So it's their money. So it doesn't matter if I lose it again. There's various psychological phenomena like that. And by understanding those phenomena and knowing the times that they happen, then you can place these responsible gaming messages in the right time as well as the right style. And so we worked with the client to find these results, and then guess what? Just as we were delivering it, it was March 2020. So the lockdowns across the world came into place, and the people stuck at home behind their computers. The prevalence of online gaming rocketed, and so you had a lot more people coming into the sector, spending more money, and these messages were there just at the right time to be able to help guide people and help protect people. So that's the story of the impact that we were able to help make there, with, of course, the benefit of an engaged client who themselves wanted to take that responsible approach. You could imagine the temptation to just say, "Oh, we'll just take all the money that comes," but they wanted to do the right thing, both because they're human beings working in this client, and I'm sure it also is good for companies to in the long run make sure that they are being responsible. Well, they won't be perhaps regulated. Like, I know that in many parts of the US, there is no gambling because of regulation, and so these companies want to make sure they can do it in a responsible way, so they don't end up in a situation where it is banned.
Yep. I do believe we are in a region in Canada as well where it's slowly becoming being positioned by the government as something that's not as bad as it used to be. But
Right.
even 5 years ago, you couldn't even bet on sports.
Mm.
So, so things are changing. But I think, as well as recognizing the responsibility that these organizations have to ensure such, and transparency is big, right? So
Yeah.
I think using market research to ensure that you're advocating for a much more transparent organization is again super
Mm.
invaluable. So to utilize these types of research to tell the real story, I think is such
Yeah.
a cool technique. Cool.
Yeah. I would say transparency is actually one of these, can be a trap, and
Oh,
this is what happens in much of the finance industry. Is
interesting.
that organizations, banks, lenders, they were transparent, but transparency can mean just throwing information at you. It can mean,
Yeah.
I give you 20 pages of every possible detail about my product and about the loan that you're taking, or the interest rate, or what could happen or what could go wrong. But you're not going to read the bottom of the 18th page realistically. And so actually transparency was thought to be the solution by traditional economists, but actually that needs to be supported with an understanding of how to make the information land. What are the important parts? What are the pieces of information that are going to matter to people, and how can you frame those so that they notice and understand what they, as an individual, need to notice and understand?
Wow.
So yeah, transparency can almost be used as a club to try
Yep. A
to solve
marketing
a
term,
problem.
even to some
Yeah,
degree. So
sure. Yeah.
no,
So
I yeah. That's interesting. I think, yeah, wow. I think to turn the table, that's such a unique way to look at it. I think PayPal is kind of an example of that, where you get sent their legal agreement every
mm,
so often. In reality, you're probably not going to read what they are changing, but to them, it's being transparent. Those types of engagements with your consumer. You're right.
yeah.
I think there is a level of that. As a sophisticated shopper myself, I can sometimes really read
Mm,
into a lot of those things. And maybe I don't even take the time to be, ensuring that I'm digesting this information because I'm being
mm,
bombarded. We're in, what we call the information era. So I think what you guys are doing at Irrational Agency is quite interesting in that, we recognize that even ourselves, market research firms, behavioral science consultants, there's a lot of information that can go into the reporting. When we're working with huge data sets,
mm,
we're pulling primary, we're pulling secondary, we're working on IDIs, and we're doing these recorded interviews. There's so much data that we pull from. Being able to take that and drill it down to the narrative, to the story, I think is a really unique skill set. So maybe to transfer into that a little bit, Leigh,
Mm.
from the business side, if you were, say you're talking to an up and coming market researcher who really wants to get into this side of the industry, what would you suggest if someone wanted to learn more about these types
Yeah.
of techniques?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about this just recently because we're recruiting right now, and I would love to have 6 more people on the team to do this narrative work. So
Love
and
it.
do get in touch if you're interested. But absolutely, I realized something. I'm just writing a post about it, which will probably be out before the podcast is out. So you listeners might be able to find that. Um,
Sure.
Market research, quant market research, does combine these two skills that are often very, very separate. You have the mathematical quantitative skill, you have the creative storytelling skill, and you need to have both. You, as a quant researcher, you need to be able to write a questionnaire, understand the logic of the routing of the questionnaire, be able to read the data tables, understand the base sizes, know what's a significant difference. You have to speak that language, and you need to be able to turn that into a message that will land with a client, that is meaningful and that can help them bring about change. And that's, it is such a great uh, and it's an unusual combination of skills, and it's brilliant when somebody can bring those two together. So I would say, the if you are um, a researcher who wants to make sure you're really great at that, um, the quantitative skills, in a way, you probably know how to learn those, right? There's a bit more of a recipe for how you learn the quantitative skills, but the storytelling part, you really got to put yourself in the mind of a client. You need to, if you can, go work client side for a while. If you can't, then at least read the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times. Spend as much time as you can talking to clients and listen to their stories about what's important to them and the business challenges they face, and then just be really focused on translating that quantitative data into the story that's meaningful to clients. You won't always get it right first time. You'll iterate with the client to get it right.
Hmm.
But in a way, that's the storytelling side. So the and that's where good researchers have, over the last 10 years, started to get good at that storytelling, and that is taking the data and presenting it to their stakeholders in a narrative form. But what the other thing we're talking about is story hearing. So that's
Yes.
about listening to the stories of consumers. So the skills there are partly about asking, partly about learning how to prompt people to be open. And you will learn that from having conversations and from telling and asking for stories. But then you can translate those skills into, say, questionnaire design. So there's there's subtle techniques to, if we're like writing a questionnaire. I mentioned the 2,600 people that we're gathering stories from. We have to ask the questions in the right way to get them to open up to us, because otherwise people will, if you just say in a survey, tell me a story about when you went grocery shopping, someone's going to type in 6 words to say, I parked and I bought my groceries and I went home. You have to take them through a process to get them to open up in the right way. So that is it. Definitely, it's great to be qual and quant, because then you will be able to borrow techniques from qual conversations into your questionnaire design. But also, I would say, start to understand some of the theory of narrative. So you'll find books. There's a great book called The Science of Storytelling, and by, I think, Will Starr. I can
Hmm.
send you that. You can put the link in.
I've
Um,
read it actually.
Oh, well, perfect, brilliant, yeah.
Yep.
And there's a number of other books that will look at and papers and websites that will tell you about the structure of stories, so that you can start to recognize, when I hear a story, what's happening here. Where's the opening, where's the inciting incident, or where's the turning point, what are the obstacles, who's the antagonist, what's the resolution, and what's driving the action. And you'll recognize that even when a respondent tells you a simple story about when they went grocery shopping, but this time it's not just I parked and I bought my groceries. It's I parked and I couldn't find what I was looking for, and I was really I was really desperate because I had to get home because the kids are coming back from school and the in-laws are coming round, and I've got to cook that. I want to cook this one recipe that I know they really love, and the thing is out of stock, and I couldn't find the alternative, and so and this is what I did about it, and this was the resolution. And that kind of story it's still simple, but it reveals a lot more about how people shop than something very short. And so you want to get people to tell you those stories, and you want to have the right tools to analyze and break down those stories, and then turn that into quant data that you can say, okay, 2,000 shoppers told us these things, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore we can draw some really strong conclusions.
It's interesting. So what I'm hearing too, the questionnaire design is super, super important to this process as well. Do you often change up the questionnaire design within the project, or is this a questionnaire that you guys kind of run with
Mm.
throughout the entire project? Do you
Mm.
and maybe I'll restart that, Leigh, because where
Sure.
what I was hearing a little bit, and again, just from my own inherent interest, but from a questionnaire design perspective, is this something that you guys build right from the start?
Mm. Well, we have, I guess we've learned some techniques that work pretty well in designing these
Right.
questionnaires. So, one of them is that we kind of do a storytelling exchange. So, we'll start within the even within a questionnaire by telling a story. So, we'll say, here's a story of, when I went shopping, or when, one of your fellow shoppers went to the supermarket. And that's a way to get people to open up. Then we give people some prompts. We say, so imagine you're in this situation, and here's a challenge you face, or
Mm-hmm.
here's a goal that you have. And that kind of opens them up to be a bit more creative, and not just give you the basics. So we have those techniques, but
Mm-hmm.
generally the way that those play out for a different client and a different scenario is different, because we might one week we might be researching soda, one week it might be TV viewing, one week it might be people who are taking diabetes medication. Of course, all of those, the stories that will come up are different, and the prompts are different. So there are repeatable skills that you can learn, but every questionnaire does tend to be a little bit different, except I guess when we're doing a tracking study. So sometimes we will track the narratives and say, we want to repeat this every quarter, and
Mm-hmm.
we want to say, are people saying something different about sustainability today than they did 6 months ago? And then you want
Yep.
to make sure that you're asking in the same way. So that of course is a repeatable questionnaire.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think again, questionnaire design is such a unique skill
Mm,
set in the research industry, and it's expanding more and more in consideration to the fact that I think you nailed the point. People are engaging differently. People, in effort to get that story out of folks to some degree, you got to
mm,
talk to them like they're a human and not really kind of play the Q&A aspect. Even when you're filling out an online survey, I'm sure there's a lot more that you can do within the questionnaire design to ensure that you're really eliciting the response rather than getting an answer to the question. Myself being a background, I former journalist, and that was,
mm,
my initial career path, and then landing in marketing. I see a ton of parallel in even the knowledge that we were kind of taught in terms of how to bounce techniques off of folks in terms of getting the real story out of
mm,
people, and really learning. And you mentioned learning on the client side of things, putting their shoes on, getting to understand their industry, their organization. Sometimes that takes a week of diving into their world to some degree before even really nailing down that questionnaire. So
mm.
I think a lot of that has a really great parallel in the work that journalists do, storytellers, natural storytellers in the world, right? So
Yeah.
I think this is a really cool segment for me to be a part of, because I see a lot of parallels. So
Yeah, I mean, I love the variety of different backgrounds that people come to the research industry
yeah.
with, and I haven't heard many people who were journalists, but I think that's absolutely right. That's a brilliant kind of set of parallels. And I've met a couple of people who are anthropologists, and people who people who studied English literature, and you can see, of
Yeah.
course, some of those different elements that come forth in the way people do research. But
Yep.
yeah, maybe if we keep hearing about how journalism is in crisis and all the journalists are being laid off, maybe we need to recruit them as researchers instead.
I hate to say we're, our backgrounds are often, our secondary backgrounds are in research and statistics usually. So
Mm,
we're not the worst pool to choose from.
yeah.
Granted, we love the comms area of things. So even just
Mm,
information design, I think that's where I have my own unique interest in market research, is being
mm,
able to take a lot of this knowledge and put it into something a lot more visual. I love doing data visualization. It's a big part of my gig
mm,
at Insightrix, but I think that what it drills down to is taking large, data sets that, are really hard to kind of, for the average person to really take an insight from,
mm,
drill that down and make it, something that they can take something away from without having to really read into it. So, yeah, so I think that maybe that's probably why I ended up on the marketing side and
mm,
not so much the research. We're the
mm,
creative, and
mm,
we trust the folks on the quantitative side with the numbers. So,
mm,
but yeah, I think we kind of nailed all the avenues of narrative research,
mm,
Leigh, and I think even just giving some advice on the business side is quite unique as well. I think we're at a point in time, as industries, as agencies, high tides raise all ships, and I'm hearing a lot that competition, or rather, collaboration is the new competition.
mm.
So whenever we can work with folks like you, have these conversations, share them with our listeners, which
Yeah.
are often researchers themselves, I think it really is important. So thank you so much for your time, Leigh. I'll leave maybe the floor open to you. Is there anything perhaps we would like to share with our listeners, finding out more about the work that you do?
Sure. Yeah. Well, just two things I'd love to say. One is, uh, if you're interested in finding out what an example of narrative research looks like, because I can imagine that it can be a bit abstract to just hear about it, go to
Totally.
our website, irrationalagency.com. You'll see on there a link to something called Hidden Stories of Sustainability, which is a report that we publish. So click on that and you'll be able to get a copy of the preview of that. You can see what that research looks like. And the other thing is just, we would love to have people come and work with us on this. I'd love to have, I think I said earlier, a half a dozen new researchers joining our team, doing and learning about narrative research. So please, if you're interested, connect me on LinkedIn, go to our website, and hopefully we'll be working with a few of your listeners in the near future.
Awesome. That is really cool. We'll have all the information down in the podcast episode on podcast.insightrix.com. Again, I thank you so much for your time today, Leigh. And I look forward to seeing what you're working on with narrative research in the future. So
Thanks so much. Wonderful to meet you.